I will have to say that Miss Dunn actually prepared this, so I wanted to go ahead and give her the kudos for that. But again, thank you for having us. We definitely have talked a lot this summer about just the trends that we continue to see and the needs of the families, even in the summertime, that they still have those needs. So with mental health, since COVID, I mean, everything that I personally am with my job, what I do, everything has really changed because of COVID. I'm not sure with my colleagues here if they would agree, but families haven't gotten back to the way they were. Students, nobody wants to go to school. We have an increase in students that want to go out on homebound for anxiety. Just the family dynamic has changed so much too with families, that they're all over the place. There's very little structure in the family, in the home, and we're finding that just things that typically probably wouldn't cause students to be anxious are now causing that. There's a lot of homelessness, and not in the true sense that they're living on the street, but that they're living with relatives or friends, or couch surfing as it used to be called. So all these things that the families are experiencing, whether it's financial hardship, we do have an increase in, maybe not an increase, but more recognition of the migrant families in the area, that the children are bringing those, issues into the classroom, and if they show up at all, just being anxious, and they have a lot on their plate, and it's a lot to expect kids to show up at school and not have a bad day, or not let that stuff impact their learning. So we we're hoping that we can do some additional things this year, and try to get out with the families a little bit more. I know that your the guide that you have that you were talking about, we carried that. We actually had a home visit with a family that is an immigrant family, and we were able to help the family with some needs right away, by leaving, finding out they have two newborns pretty much, going to Susanna Wesleyan to pick up some food items and diapers and things like that. But it's just recognizing, which I know you guys do, but to get the word out even more in the community that, you don't think that you have an impact with kids, but you really do, because we cannot operate without the help of the community. Okay, and that's just what we've used for years, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And again, this was even before COVID, but it's even magnified now. And I'm not sure that everybody understands that unless you do work with families in need. Even teachers, not everybody in the school division recognizes that, you don't know what the children are experiencing, and you don't know, what kind of morning that student had, and if they're there, celebrate that they're there. If they're not there, pick up the phone and find out why they're not. Just, that engagement piece, that school engagement piece is, fractured. I think even the community engagement piece. We're here, you guys are here offering everything that you can, resources, but we're trying to get the word out to the families that this, the county does have this, what do you need? And if I don't know right away, or my colleagues, and we try to go search for whatever, even if it's something with pets, because a lot of times, you've got families that are experiencing financial hardships, and that weighs on children. That, it could be insignificant, but to a child coming to school knowing that, they're going to drop my pet off at the animal control because we can't afford it anymore, we're moving and they won't accept pet. It's just, just trying to get that lens going so that we see what the families are, what they're going through and what they need. And some we've got more resources, counseling resources. I've got a stack. One day I hope to really compile that into a guide, but of everything that we have. One of the basic needs I think that we need, and it's just having to be creative in what we would call it, would be parenting classes, helping parents talk to their kids, especially when you have elementary school age children that are running the family. They stay up all night, they play video games, there's just, no routine. And it's pretty, basic for us because of our ages that, yes, you need to have a bedtime, but those things are huge barriers that we see. So when we go into the home, it's really picking apart and using that microscope to see what, what's going on and what's at the root of it, and what resource can we throw at it. And that's kind of like the needs, and it's pretty elementary. Food, clothes, shoes, coats. I was just contacted last week by a family of 4. So 3 children are at the high school this year and 1 still in elementary. And the family is struggling, but having 4 children, she does get some assistance, but it's not enough to clothe them really. So we're trying to come up with some supports with that. We did have this past Saturday at the high school, that big, yes, so that was I didn't attend, unfortunately, but I know that last year it was a big hit, so I'm sure that they had a lot turnout for that. Housing, that's, I've got 3 or 4 families that they're looking for housing. They're staying with somebody else, so they're under the McKinney-Vento protection, so they're considered homeless. However, there's just not a lot of housing to go around. Affordable housing. And then it runs back to, with the McKinney-Vento, which is great, we try to keep the student at their home school, their assigned school, so that's not another area of anxiety that we're going to throw on the family, that the student has to be pulled from their friends, and we try to keep it as normal and as routine as possible. But I'm probably going to say something. Mentorship for all kids, that's something that we really wanted to work on, because a lot of these families, and you see it more, I think, with males, they need to have some sort of positive male role model. And we would like to, we've seen other school divisions throughout the state have like before school activities, not really like care, but it's not anything like that, but it's like before school activities to get the kids excited about being there. Because I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if my colleagues can help me, but this upcoming school year, they're going to go back to families that qualify for free and reduced lunch. They're the only ones that will get that. For several years since COVID, the school division has been able to offer just free lunches for everybody. So that's something that's not really, I don't know under what maybe grant or funding that was. That's not my forte, but that's going to be a huge area of concern this school year. That the families, I'm sure it's been publicized, but they probably have no idea. So they've gone from getting free food to you're not going to get free food now. So I think we're going to have a lot of kids that are going to be hungry those first couple days until the families realize that it's not free now.
And grocery prices are only increasing. Nothing is going down.
And the schools do. The high school has the largest care closet, which they've got toiletries, clothes, toiletries that have been donated from churches and other organizations, food, stuff like that. But I know that I personally, I keep stuff with me because you never know when you have that child that is hungry. We're hoping to make sure that all of the schools have everything they need with that. I know, again, that especially elementary school, those teachers and all, they're, if the student needs something, they'll run out and get it if they don't have it. But we would like to maybe see an increase in donations, just anything as far as I know Page Middle School, there is a church locally. I do not know the name of it, but they, I was there one day and it was almost like a food delivery, and it was like snacks. And they do the backpacks on Fridays where they, will put a bunch of food and stuff like that in the backpack. And sometimes the kids don't want to take it because they're embarrassed. I'm not sure how to get around that. They do try to get the smaller, what are those called? The knapsacks? The drawstring bags. So it's not as large and bulky, but because some kids will say, no, I don't want it, when, they do need it for the weekend to have that food. So again, we'd like to try to do something. I've actually talked with Kevin Smith, who is employed at the high school, but also sits on the Board of Supervisors, about, some sort of like outreach for, mentoring of kids. And then the barriers, those in the middle, that's what I look at when I do the truancy stuff. Again, it's, the purpose of the truancy is not to punish students or families, but just to find out why is the student not showing up. And once you kind of peel away and look at everything that's going on, very few will actually just be truant, where the student just is refusing to go for no good reason. Lack of immediate access to resources and the transportation issue. I have families that I've had to go out and serve as the proxy at,
Food pantry.
Food pantry, yes.
Yeah.
And the one on 14, is it the Bread for Life? Where the families can't get there to get the food. So they, I can give them the dates that they can, go and show up for the food donations, but they can't get there. So that's, and Bay Transit has, we're blessed to have that, but some families can't navigate that.
And I think we're finding too, we do have families moving in trying to find affordable housing, and they're coming from areas that might be more of a pedestrian area where you can walk to the resources. Out here, you're walking a long way to get somewhere, and that's very unfamiliar to them. And I don't think they're being forewarned or prepared that you can't just walk out the door to get what you need.
Well, we have seen, I think we've all seen the increase. You mentioned it yesterday in pedestrian traffic, just really up here, because people can walk to various things, to whether it's for shopping or getting food.
That's hard.
It is. And then there goes back to the lack of school-based before and after care. We were even trying to brainstorm on what that would look like. There is a division up in, it's about 2.5 hours away, that's what they provide, and I think a lot of reliance is on volunteers from the community. Like if you have a skill, or like if it's crafts, or the kids get to sign up for whatever they want to do in the mornings, so they're excited about being there. So then that, it gets the parents in line too, because the parents are like, okay, well, if you really want to go, I'll drop you off on the way into work. But if you have any sort of like talents or skills to share, they could do like acting classes, woodworking, just all sorts of things. And then of course, Madison had mentioned, the liability part. Well, of course, that's not my area. I know that they've done it up there, and they've implemented it successfully. But it takes, I think, outside sources in the community maybe coming in and helping and volunteering with that. Because teachers have so much on their plate already. If we would go in and advocate, I would not be popular.
And we
because
have,
they would say, when are we going to have time to do that?
And we do have some teachers, the PE teachers that have taken the elementary level. It started many years ago, but before school and after school running programs. And it probably, if you've had children, they might have participated in it, but they are so enthusiastic and they get rid of so much energy. So it's like a win-win situation. And if we could find more activities like that, it's parents are dropping them off, they're safe, and they're getting rid of a lot of energy to sit still for the rest of the day. So.
The one of lack of awareness to resources, that goes back to that, how can we help you guide? That, that's a wonderful thing that you have put together, because, it's phenomenal.
We do carry it around
We
with
do,
us.
we do. That's why because what I did do is I was able to, highlight, copy, paste, and then, do the Google Translate. But, and that's why I was wondering, if you had a QR code to pull that up. Because if I'm out in the field, sometimes I might need a resource, and it would be nice to be able to pull that up. So is there anything else y'all want to add on the barriers?
I don't think so.
And then the trends, like we said, is increase in level of anxiety and depression. things that, I'm not saying that didn't exist before COVID, but, and the children that we're seeing right now, and I think it's the graduating class that we just had, was probably the first class where everybody kind of came back and these kids were
Yes.
starting middle school.
Mhm.
So we've seen a lot of change in attitude towards school, not just with the students but the parents, because honestly we told families your kids can't be in school, and now we're telling them you have to be in school. And so you have a lot of smart kids out there, and they're, my youngest was kind of like that. Well, wait a minute, you said I didn't have to go before, and I did well. So the school division is looking into maybe some options, because we have had an increase in families that have decided to homeschool their children rather than go back. Some, they tried to come back, and then we have that level of anxiety. And it's just the social skills that children need to continue to work on, or that the kids that come back, they have no social skills. They really, they don't know how to carry on a conversation with people. And so that's, something that we hopefully will continue to address. But, and the increase in like the bullying, cyberbullying, and also the increase in bullying. I mean, bullying, of course, it does happen, but it kind of goes along with the social awareness and social skills too, that sometimes the perception of being bullied is just somebody didn't agree with what you said, but kids don't know how to, carry on that dialogue and to read the room, to read the social cues. Those are just skills that I think we need to do a better job of teaching the kids and reinforcing and modeling, because, sometimes adults can be just as bad. But the increase in the homeless population, I've already touched base on that. And then the decrease in the engagement with the families and the students. Homebound request, a lot of the families that request to be homebound, there's a medical reason that they feel that they cannot be in school, that that's not the appropriate placement. What happens, there is a requirement that a medical provider has to sign off on the form. It's a temporary placement essentially, but you are still tied to the school division. And so some kids are successful in that. And then the goal would be to transition back into in-person school. But the number of home instruction families kind of like, we had a little bit of a spike, because if the homebound is denied, or if a doctor doesn't sign off on it, then that's when they decide to pull them all together. And I would say, and you can probably correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
I would say over half of the homebound students, it's because of anxiety.
Definitely.
And it's probably higher, probably 65, 70%. And it's just the generalized anxiety.
Right.
And again, just they don't know how to be in a classroom with 20 peers and be able to navigate that and get along with everybody. So.
And homebound is supposed to be seen as a temporary service, recovery from surgery or major medical issues. And I think now it's being seen as maybe an opportunity for lengthier time out of school. And we're really trying to inform parents and doctors, because medical professionals too will write a student out for the entire year. And that's really not to the benefit of the student. It's more of an avoidance of the real issue that needs to be addressed.
And that's just, everyone here knows how large Gloucester is. Although Madison is new to the area, so she probably is not aware. But that just kind of like goes along with the difficulties with resources and getting families where they need to be.
Just walking to them, it's impossible.
Okay, and the enrollment figures, and that was from the state, that was last year. So you can see, I looked around, New Kent County is the closest school division that has numbers similar to this. It's either much lower than we have or much higher. So I do think Gloucester we are a unique county. The elementary schools, thankfully the high school is completely renovated. It's really, really nice. And then you've got all of those feeder schools. So the enrollment for this upcoming school year is less than that, the 1,548. It's going to be lower than that, but the projected is going to be lower than that. And we still have daily families coming up and saying they want to pull to homeschool. So, and alternative placements that we have, those are just outside placements. The impact program that Ms. Sorrell and I work is for students that have been long-term suspended or expelled from Gloucester, and also Matthews and Middlesex, so they come to the high school. But those are still tied to the school division, and they still have those resources that they need and assistance. So as far as short-term solutions, you know, and it kind of goes, I mean, long-term too, but just getting the, I guess, more community involvement with families that need basic necessities. And then maybe long-term is trying to get something together with before school activities, mentoring programs, anytime. And that's like you were saying, Reggie, I mean, it would be great if you could come to like Impact and speak to the,
Sure.
you know, just letting the kids know. And they get excited when they feel like adults care and that they're, you know, that they're interested. Even though, again, they're kids, they still do. And the community partnerships, because it's, the school division, you know, we have to stay engaged with the students and the families, and the community is that essential piece. Because we couldn't do it without you guys. Does anybody have any questions with everything that I rambled about?
So the Resource Council has what's called the Needs Network, which typically has been on that bottom rung of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So for example, a family that needs a washer and a dryer because the kids' clothes are dirty and they don't want to go to school with pee on their clothes.
Right.
Those are things that can go through the Needs Network, and it's been highly successful.
Okay, and how would we access that?
So there's a form on our website. If you go to gloucesterresourcecouncil.com, there is a place where you can submit a Needs Network request, and what will happen is it will email Gloucester Resource Council, which I received. And we've only had a few come in. In the past, we used to disperse that to all of the subscribers that were in our network. So right now, there have only been a few, and we've sort of been able to figure out the response to it before we actually had to broadcast it.
Right.
But we could send out a network email when like
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's what we used to
oh.
do.
I didn't know.
And we would just put contact information. So
Right.
if you wanted it, like how would people get back to you so
Right.
we're not fielding?
Right, not the family.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
of course,
Just-
whoever's
okay.
coordinating that contact, so that way the resource isn't in the middle of it, so.
Oh, well, that's
wonderful.
oh, it is. When see, and that's because
Yes.
oftentimes it's a lot of families, because they have a lot of pets. The kids will come to school smelling like cat urine, and the schools try to wash their clothes and everything right away. But yes, that is that's
And
wonderful.
then beds, I know beds have been provided through the Needs
Oh,
Network.
wow.
Oh, yeah, so people have asked for hospital beds, or I've got a wheelchair I'm no longer using, who can use it in the
Okay.
network. And-
Oh,
and so they
okay.
send stuff that way. It's, I think COVID is when most of that kind of dialed back.
Yeah,
Oh, that's wonderful.
But, yeah.
or just mattresses
Right.
for
That's
the
a big
kids who are
deal.
sleeping on
Yes.
a pile of blankets.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Not very
Well, that's
comfy.
wonderful to know.
And then and another one, the Jubilee of Churches, they
I've
are
heard
also
of that.
involved with, I don't know, do we have like a point of contact? I know there's a pamphlet we could get you and we could share that out on the resource page.
Yes.
But it's a list of the churches, pretty much all the churches in the community come together and they organize what's called the Jubilee of Churches. And it's very similar, but when you're dealing with a family that's dealing with homelessness, like
Right.
they have an intake number, it's funneled through them, which I believe is through the guest. Right.
Oh, okay.
So it starts
Oh, yeah.
there, they have a
Okay.
process of that they go through, that all the churches, are aware of and engaged, and they help funnel the needs that way as well. So
Oh, that's
it's
perfect.
more than just a washer or mattress if it's
Right,
on the next
right,
level.
on long term,
Yeah.
get them into decent housing.
Exactly.
And I know we have also done in the past where we pick a meeting where we have a drive for diapers. Or we
Oh,
have
yeah.
a drive for toiletries. I know we used to do that for the Laurel Shelter.
Right.
So if there was, once school starts, if
Mhm.
your hygiene products
Right.
are really low, isn't that something that you could put out and, say for our meeting in October, please bring toothpaste.
Right.
Please bring,
Sure,
you know,
I think we tried that one time that I've been in
Yes.
chair. We've probably done it before, I was disengaged for a little while.
Oh, no,
but-
that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
What, with me going into the homes and, my
yeah.
colleagues, we do see,
Firsthand.
Of course.
everything that, even things that the family didn't reveal to us in a conversation over the phone that they need, you go in and you see what they really need.
and the backpack program is wonderful. I go to Abingdon Church and
Okay.
we adopted Abingdon
See, okay.
Elementary.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my former life, my work life, home visiting, I was in a home where the older child, it was Friday afternoon, and the mom said, he's almost home, and I'm telling you, all of the kids gathered around. You would have thought he was a hunter, like bringing in a deer
Yes.
that was going to sustain the family. And they all gathered around on the floor and divided up the snacks. It was really moving, and the baby that we were serving
Right.
had feeding issues. So the whole food insecurity does impact the entire family.
It does.
But here, this dear little fifth grader was the one who
It's
was
bringing it.
taking care of the family.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
Yes.
that's,
Oh, it's
that's
a wonderful
touching.
program.
And I
It's a
see
lot
that,
of work.
Tracy, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. So a couple of things. I'm filling out the Needs Network form right now. My name is Tracy. I'm with Bread for Life. I always forget to announce that. But anyway, I do have 2 twin mattresses with box springs, so I'm gonna let you guys know about that. So whoever needs it, we can make sure that they get a mattress.
That's wonderful.
And yeah, so and then a second thing too is Bread for Life also does emergency food delivery. So if there's
Oh.
ever a thing, like we should not have anybody who is hungry in our county.
Right.
With as many pantries as we have to serve for our county, and we do again emergency food delivery. So if there's any family or someone that is hungry or in need, we can deliver. It's not, a volunteer has to do it, Bread for Life cannot do it for insurance purposes, but I can always get a volunteer to go out to that family or that household with, a trunk full of food. So, and we can talk with the family and see what their preferences are, or their dietary needs are, so they don't waste anything. So, all anyone has to do is text our Bread for Life phone number, which I can put in the chat, but it's 804-694-9366. And I can typically have a volunteer within a day.
wonderful.
Just to go out to that house or that temporary living situation or wherever they are, meet them wherever they are.
That's
wonderful, Tracy.
awesome.
Amazing.
You bet.
You also mentioned with some of your other needs, just if, obviously, this is an enormous cause that tugs at everybody's heartstrings and people might wanna get involved. So if somebody wanted to support the schools, just a resident of the community, like what is the best thing they can do to support y'all with some of the outreach efforts?
Can I jump in?
Yes.
I would suggest representing the community engagement department that they get in touch with the school community engagement coordinator.
Yeah.
Because we're typically the ones who are managing the volunteer program, and we're always looking for people to be mentors and lunch buddies, to lead the before school activities. We're happy to be the point of contact for those kinds of things. And we also usually have a pretty good idea of if there's a care closet at the school, what kind of needs there might be.
Right.
And just in general, we usually manage the snack pack program. So we kind of have our hands in some of these things, and we like to try to bridge those gaps when we can, just because we know that the school system does have a lot on their plates focusing on that education piece. So however we can support GCPS, we love to. So those are great points of contact. Each school, each elementary and middle school has a community engagement coordinator, and you can find their email and number on the school's website.
Wonderful, thank you.
The high school needs to get one.
Well, thank you so much, that was helpful.
Thank
Are
you
there
for
any other
having us.
questions?